What's going on, guys? Super Savage 799 here, bringing you guys a video. And today we're doing what if Gran Torino trained Izuku early, part 5. In the last part, we covered how everyone's studies went, as well as the fight with Stain. Izuku and Tokoyami both learned a unique way to fly under the tutelage of hawks. As for Bakugo, he learned a much more unique way to move under Gran Torino. Bakugo and Ida were also the ones who defeated Stain in this timeline, which is where we left off. Picking back up, the finals exams would arrive onto UA. After the written test is out of the way, the race event would mark the start of the practical exam. Not to reinstate the obvious, but Izuku, Tokoyami and Bakugo all do much better in this part. We then arrive at the teacher vs student part of the exam. There would of course be a few changes though as to who fights who. Obviously, All Might is retired, so he wouldn't be the one who fights Izuku and Bakugo. Instead, however, it would be their teacher, Gran Torino. He won't exactly be happy about it, but Toshinori's becking can only go on so long before he loses his sanity. There would also be a slight change in who fights Aizawa. Instead of Yaoyorozu and Todoroki fighting him, it'd be Todoroki and Shinso. This is due to Shinso having trained under Aizawa, putting him in a unique position of being at an advantage and disadvantage all at the same time. Plus, pairing him with Todoroki, someone who has lots of experience, will be a good contrast. It also means that Yaoyorozu and Sero will be the ones taking on Midnight. Before we get into the detailed fight scenes, I'd like to get out of the way that we have some small changes to the other fights. Tokoyami will be able to pass even easier along with Tsuyu due to his added strength or his advanced mobility. Kirishima is also stronger to a point where I could see him and Sato actually passing in this timeline. Izuku and Bakugo would be walking through the arena where they'd interact like they did in canon. Here though, Bakugo is more confident due to him having first-hand experience with Gran Torino. As he begins monologuing to Izuku, telling him how he's going to win, he begins to feel winded and holds his gut. Gran Torino stands behind Bakugo, telling him that he shouldn't get cocky. He's not planning to suppress himself this time. Gran Torino begins springing around, using the wide open area to his advantage. Bakugo be trying to attack Gran Torino, where he's using his new speedy style, but it is futile. The old man is merely able to maneuver around them and counterattack. Having learned the lesson from all his training, Izuku would fire his air gauntlet attacks at where he predicts Gran Torino will actually go instead of where he is. While Gran Torino is able to dodge, the attacks do graze him. Izuku at this point will be using 15% of his power, which is enough to freely use his projectiles. He tells Gran Torino that he isn't the same person he trained. Using his gauntlets, he begins using a pseudo-flight that he learned from hawks. With the speed he did the act, he manages to actually off-guard Gran Torino and get a good punch in. It would shock both Gran Torino and Bakugo as they're witness to Izuku's growth. With where the punch was located, it leaves Gran Torino rather winded, which is bad for his quirk. Remember, the air propulsion goes off the oxygen he intakes, so being winded screws him over. Gran Torino realizes that with his quirk rather screwed up, he'll need to retreat. He can't have Izuku using that gauntlet again, however. Using a couple high-pressured gusts, he charges at Izuku and uses all his strength to break one of the gauntlets with a well-timed kick. As Izuku is in shock, Gran Torino begins to escape. Bakugo tries to cut him off, leading to Gran Torino blasting the explosion with his air. It makes the explosion fierce, leaving enough smoke for Gran Torino to make his escape. Bakugo wants to chase after him, but Izuku tells him they don't have a chance. They got lucky last time, but now he can't do the same trick twice. Bakugo, however, couldn't even keep up with Gran Torino. This would hurt Bakugo's pride, but he manages to keep that down for right now. He tells Izuku that Gran Torino could definitely keep the exit blocked with his speed. It's probably what he's waiting for. Izuku then counters back that Bakugo and him are both trained under Gran Torino. They know his strengths and his weaknesses. If they work together, they can potentially defeat him. Of course, Bakugo tells him no and tells him to die, but Izuku tells him to stop letting his pride stop him winning. He gives a speech to what he did in canon, except it isn't during combat. Bakugo then asks what he had in mind, and Izuku tells him he has an idea. As Izuku and Bakugo are walking, Gran Torino arrives and hits them both before they can react. As they collapse into the ground, they go to apprehend him, but they're both able to react and get next to each other. They begin moving as Gran Torino chases, eventually cornering themselves into an alleyway. Gran Torino calls him stupid as he begins flinging from wall to wall faster than they can see. Bakugo tells Izuku that he hopes this works as he removes a clip to his grenade gauntlet. As Bakugo fires it, Izuku shoots his wind blast, creating a massive directed inferno straight at Gran Torino. Despite his speed, the size of the attack is too much and he's swept up in it. With this, the duo begin to rush away and get out of there, successfully taking the win. Meanwhile, Shinso and Todoroki be walking around as they form a strategy. Todoroki realizes that with the nature of Shinso's quirk, Aizawa won't spend time using his quirk onto Shinso, so he'd begin using his ice and fire side to a small degree to determine when he's near. Shinso tells Todoroki that he should cover his mouth, explaining his artificial voice box. Aizawa might lower his guard if he hears Todoroki's voice. Todoroki tells Shinso that this won't work, however. Aizawa is smart, he'll definitely be expecting that. Plus he trained Shinso, so he knows about the voice box. Shinso then tells Todoroki that his quirk can be useful in ways Aizawa doesn't know. Before he can explain, Aizawa arrives to restrain Todoroki, which he succeeds in doing. Shinso tries to use the opportunity to use his scarf and restrain Aizawa, however it's too sluggish to do anything. Aizawa then rushed at Shinso with Todoroki telling him to run. Shinso asks Todoroki why he should listen to him. The only thing he accomplished was getting caught instantly. Aizawa's scarf begins to wrap around Shinso as he tells him he should have listened to his teammate. As he goes to fully tie him up though, Aizawa stops. What he didn't realize was that indirectly, he just answered Shinso's question. Shinso then tells Aizawa to run the opposite way of him as he takes off, taking the win for his team. Todoroki is shocked at Shinso's quick thinking, but nonetheless, they still have won. As for Yaoyorozu and Sero, while I don't have any ideas how the fight would go, I do think they'd win. For one thing, Yaoyorozu could probably make a gas mask to block Midnight's mist. She's also a female, so the mist is less effective. Sero also doesn't have to sacrifice himself to save his teammate, due to Yaoyorozu definitely being more competent in battle than Mineta. Afterwards, I imagine Class 1A would still get the idea to head to the mall where Izuku runs into Shigaraki. After they have their usual interaction, Shigaraki tells Izuku that he should be careful. With All Might gone, society is going to crumble under his feet now. He just made it a lot easier for his master to do that. Before Izuku can question what he means, Shigaraki fades into the crowd. Of course, the training camp arc would then arrive after this. I think that Toshinori Yagi, aka All Might, would be allowed to come along this time around. It's unlikely any villain will be attacking him at this point in time. He also wants to use the opportunity to train himself up a bit. We do see him doing fitness tests to keep him in shape in canon, so I think it'd be fitting he'd do it here as well. They arrive at the cliffside where the students all have to pass through. I'm sure they would do slightly faster, due to there being some stronger students. They arrive, and would then begin with leisure activities like the hot springs and the cooking. When the training does begin, not only would the Pussycats be helping, but also All Might. He'd be going around giving the students tips on how they can improve. He'd approach Izuku and would see what he can do, quite impressed at the output of One For All the young boy can use. He tells him however that he shouldn't just try and imitate him, nor should he copy Gran Torino. He should look for his own style. So Izuku would begin learning shoot style during the forest training. All Might would also be approached by Kirishima of all people during this time. He asks him on how he can improve, citing how he doesn't feel like he's as strong as Izuku or Bakugo. His quirk isn't as flashy either. All Might tells him that he should try and focus on becoming strong enough to power through anything. If he isn't as strong as them, then he should learn to take more hits than them. This gives Kirishima an idea. And that's all I'll leave it here. Make sure you like and subscribe and comment down below what's going to happen in the next part. If you enjoyed it, why not hit the like button to support the channel and let us know you want to see a part 6. I'm really enjoying My Hero back on the channel and I plan to bring you guys more, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, bye!